Boundaries aren't about keeping others out, but about protecting what's inside. So think about that. Boundaries help you honor your needs and create a life where you can thrive.
Welcome to the You Are Not Your Trauma podcast, a show that reminds you that you are not alone, your experiences matter, and you are not defined by what you've been through. Each week, you will hear from the host and invited guests who have either personal or professional experience with trauma. They will share their stories and strategies for overcoming past wounds and beginning the journey toward healing and wholeness. Now, here's your host, a gifted speaker, author, coach, and entrepreneur, Harriet M. Harris.
Welcome to a brand new episode of You Are Not Your Trauma, the podcast that brings hope, healing, and inspiration to those who've experienced life's most challenging moments. It's here in this space that we peel back the layers of trauma, not just to expose it, but to understand and overcome it. I'm your host, Harriet M. Harris, and y'all, I am so glad that you're here today. I hope that this show is an important part of your healing journey. Now, today we're diving into a topic that, in my opinion, is pretty crucial for anyone on a path to healing: setting healthy boundaries. Setting boundaries is about reclaiming your space, protecting your peace, and creating a life where you feel safe, where you feel respected, and where you feel empowered. You know, I actually saw a meme recently that said, I'm at the stage in my life where I keep myself out of unnecessary arguments. So if you tell me 1 + 1 = 5, you are absolutely correct. Enjoy. And I have to admit, it made me laugh and I reposted it. But it also resonated with me because when I say protect your peace, I mean do it at all costs. So I don't know about you, but this is definitely my new strategy. You can tell me the sky is pink, it's purple, 12 + 12 is 7,024. Hey, you got it. Now, back to boundaries. I do know that setting them can be pretty tough, especially for people pleasers. And as a recovering people pleaser myself, I do know the struggle of, deciding to set boundaries and making that a practice in your life. Those of us who have experienced trauma can also find ourselves struggling with boundaries. They can feel foreign or scary because it's something that we really haven't typically done before. We might set them too tight or too strict, to protect ourselves or avoid setting them at all out of fear of rejection or abandonment. But healthy boundaries really are vital for our well being. And honestly, they aren't just about saying no or keeping people at a distance. They are also about having self respect, uh, about self care, and creating a balanced life for yourself. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about why boundaries are so crucial for our well being, some signs that you may need to set some better boundaries, and some steps to start setting them. So, by the end of this episode, I hope that you feel empowered to protect your peace. But before we get into it, let's take a moment for a very quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Want a chance to win exclusive You Are Not Your Trauma merch? Here's how. Leave a rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform and share your thoughts with us. It helps us reach more listeners who may also be seeking healing and growth. Once you left your feedback, visit feedback.youarenotyourtrauma.com to let us know you've entered by entering your info and the word feedback in the message section. You could be a lucky winner. Now stay tuned for today's inspiring episode, and thank you for being a part of the You Are Not Your Trauma community.
Okay, we are back. Thank you so much for sticking with me today through that break. So let's get to it. I want to let's just start by opening up and addressing a really important question. Why are boundaries important for our well-being? And I think the simplest answer, the simplest explanation that I have is that when we set healthy boundaries, we're essentially saying, I value myself and my needs, right? We're making ourselves important, and that's important. We're making ourselves a priority. But doing this, it protects us from being overwhelmed or taken advantage of, and it allows us to engage in relationships that are nurturing and supportive instead of those one-sided relationships where you're always doing the giving, 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 and not really receiving. And honestly, that alone can significantly reduce stress and anxiety. It'll improve your self-esteem, and it'll help you to create a more balanced life. Now, sometimes it's not immediately clear that we need stronger boundaries, but there are some signs that you might need stronger boundaries in your life. For example, if you feel overwhelmed, exhausted, or burnout, maybe you need some boundaries. Maybe you need to say no more. Maybe you need to say not right now. Maybe you need to, um, you need to decide, okay, this is a priority, and this is I have to do, but this can wait. If you find yourself feeling resentful towards or others because you feel like you're constantly being taken advantage of, or you feel like people are constantly asking you for stuff, but you know, um, they're not giving, they're not offering, or when you do ask, they say no, right? Another example is if you often say yes when you really want to say no. Now, I want to encourage you, if you're ever at a place that you want to say no, then that is the answer. We should not feel compelled or obligated to say yes to something that someone is asking of us. Um, we shouldn't feel compelled or obligated to do that. If what we really feel, what we really need, is to say no. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you just don't want to, and that is okay. Another example is if you feel responsible for other people's happiness or problems. Like, it is not your job to fix somebody else's problems. It is not your job. You are not responsible for anybody else's happiness. Happiness comes from the inside. And honestly, happiness is based on our circumstances. Happiness is based on what's going on around us. And you are not the person that's going to be able to fix that for someone else. So learning that is really going to help you set boundaries for yourself. And then also, if you feel like you're always giving and not receiving, which I mentioned that a little bit already, um, then 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 I think it's time to take a step back and evaluate your relationships, evaluate the people that you're giving to, evaluate whether or not that if you need to take a step back from, giving and see, does this relationship really suit me? Like, is it really bringing me satisfaction? Is it really a benefit for me? Like, because in relationships, it's two-sided, right? We should provide a benefit and we should also receive a benefit. So if any of those resonate with you, it might be time to reassess some things in your relationships and consider setting or enforcing boundaries in your life. Because trust me, if you set them, you got to enforce, or they're kind of pointless. So if you know it's time to set some boundaries or some healthier boundaries in your life, um, a few things that you can do to get started is first identify your needs and feelings. Reflect on situations, on relationships that drain you or make you uncomfortable. And then ask yourself, like, what do I need to feel safe and respected in these interactions? And from there, you begin to create your boundaries. The second thing is to communicate clearly and respectfully. So when you decide to set a boundary, you got to be direct. You got to be straightforward. And I know as a people pleaser, it is hard sometimes. You be like, well, kind of, sort of, no. Well, I was thinking, no. This is what I have decided, and this is it. This is the answer. For example, someone asks you, hey, can you go and run an errand for me? No, I need time to myself to recharge after work. So I'll be taking an hour for myself. Simple, right? It's very direct. It's very straightforward. It's very honest. There's no room for question in that. The next step would be to stay consistent, because boundaries are only effective if you uphold them. No one is going to do that for you. No one is going to stick to a boundary for you that you aren't willing to stick to for yourself. So if someone crosses a boundary, you gently remind them of the boundary that's set and what it is that you need. And then fourthly, give yourself permission. Understand that it's okay to prioritize you and prioritize your well-being, because setting boundaries is not selfish. It is self-care. And we all know that self-care is not selfish. Um, so take those steps, and I'll go back over them. Identify your needs and feelings, communicate clearly and respectfully, stay consistent, because, nobody's going to do it for you. And then give yourself permission, right? Give yourself permission to prioritize you and your well-being. And, the thing about boundaries is they aren't limited. They apply to all areas of your life, even your family and even your kids. And this is something that I had to learn the hard way. Like, for years, I was a people pleaser. I found myself constantly saying yes to everything, taking on extra work, being available, joining this committee and that committee and sitting on a board and, all these things. And I was putting everyone, like I was being available to everyone all the time and putting everyone else's needs before my own needs. And so then I would get exhausted, tired, burnout. I'd get to the point where I would be completely burnt out, and then I'd just get rid of everything. Just like, I can't do it no more, But I remember a few years back, I was chatting with some moms. We were watching our kids at my son's birthday party. And at one point, I mentioned something about feeling like I can't even shower alone because my kids follow me in the bathroom all the time. I know I'm not the only one, but I could be. Who knows? But they'd be following me, calling my name, Mom, Mom, Mom. I walk right past their daddy. Didn't even matter. And I'd be like, "Ugh, I can't even shower alone." And at the time, I think my youngest was maybe about 4. And one of the moms said, "Oh, my kids had better not. That's my time." Like, the next thing she said really kind of shocked me, because she said, "I set some boundaries and they know not to come in the bathroom to that door when I'm in the shower unless it's an emergency." And I was like, "What?" Like, I have never, as a people pleaser, I had never once considered boundaries for my children. I was just so accustomed to, being available to them when they needed me, especially, as they were younger. But what I also knew is that it was very draining to not be able to take a shower without interruption, not be able to, that's good thinking time, and I wanted to do something about it. So I started creating boundaries with my children. And, they were at a point where they were old enough to wait or talk to their dad if their need was urgent. And it felt good. Like, I was glad that I had that conversation. But it really did. It felt good because it was something that was needed. And it honestly, it took time. It took time for all of us to adjust to. And I did have to hold them accountable. I'm not going to say they just, they were like, "Oh, yeah, mom needs." No, they were like, I'm like, my time. I'm in the shower. So it did take some time, and it took some it took adjusting to. But it was necessary. It taught them some things, and it taught me some things. It taught them that they had to wait sometimes, but it also taught me, that I was important enough to prioritize me. And I will say that one boundary led to others. And then with each new boundary I set, I felt more and more confident about creating them, because I was the person that when someone asked me something and I had to say no, or I wanted to say no, I would feel like I had to give them some reason behind it. At that point, I was not attuned to the fact that no was a one word sentence with a punctuation point, punctuation mark at the end. Ew. But it is. And so once I got confident about creating my boundaries, I was less concerned about how creating boundaries for me affected other people. Because setting boundaries for me allowed me to reclaim my time, my energy, and it allowed me to protect my peace. So now I get to have long, hot, quiet showers without, constant interruption. And I love it. So for anyone out there who is struggling to set boundaries, my advice to you is this: start small and be kind to yourself. Allow yourself to do it for yourself. Understand that setting boundaries is going to be a process. It's going to take practice. It's going to take patience. It's going to take persistence and consistency. So remember that boundaries are about creating a healthy relationship with yourself first, because you're doing this so that you don't burn out, so that you don't feel, like you're being taken advantage of, like you aren't doing things that are against what you feel or desire to do, because what you feel and desire is important. I can't say that enough, but don't look at it like, oh, I'm pushing people away, but look at it like you are defining how you want to be treated. That is what I want you to take away from this. If nothing else, setting boundaries helps you to define how you want to be treated. And once you set that, that is what people will follow. Now, some people will fall off because they don't want to, they don't want to treat you the way you deserve to be treated, but that's okay. Those are not the people that are meant for you. But the people that are, you are showing them what you deserve. And most importantly, you're giving yourself permission to protect your peace. Now, I hope you're following along with this. I hope some of this is resonating with you. So we're going to take a very quick commercial break, but we will be right back.
Imagine having resources at your fingertips that support you through every step of your healing journey. That's exactly what you'll get with the You Are Not Your Trauma app. Access guided meditations to find your peace, read inspiring stories that resonate with your experiences, and join a community that truly understands. But that's not all. Dive into the Healing Chronicles and participate in community challenges. It's more than an app. It's a companion on your journey of self-discovery and healing. Download the You Are Not Your Trauma app today and join a community where your story matters and your healing journey is honored. Find us on the App Store and Google Play Store. Your journey to healing starts now.
Okay, we are back. Now, as we wrap up today's episode, I hope you are feeling empowered to start setting or reassessing your boundaries. Remember, it's not about, like I said, shutting people out or blocking people from being in your space, but about creating a space where you feel safe, respected, and valued, because that is important. So I want to leave you with this thought. Boundaries aren't about keeping others out, but about protecting what's inside. So think about that. Boundaries help you honor your needs and create a life where you can thrive. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Join the conversation. Let me know, what is one boundary that you'd like to set in your life today? Share it with us on social using the hashtag Protecting Your Peace, YANT, and be sure to tag You Are Not Your Trauma podcast on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Let's support each other and encourage each other on this journey of setting healthy boundaries and protecting our peace. Now, to everyone that's listening, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of You Are Not Your Trauma podcast. Your presence is a vital part of this collective journey. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to share it with someone who can benefit from the information shared. Also, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Check out the website, www.youarenotyourtrauma.com, to leave feedback, request to be a guest on the show, subscribe to the show, get information on show guests, or to get information about advertising on You Are Not Your Trauma podcast. Connect with You Are Not Your Trauma Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at You Are Not Your Trauma Podcast. And if you have a story to share, email me at contact@harrietmharris.com. Now, if you don't have the You Are Not Your Trauma app already, go ahead and download it. It is available on the Google Play and the Apple App Store. It's a fantastic tool to accompany you on your healing journey. Now, if you need additional resources to aid you in your journey of healing and self-discovery, I encourage you to download the You Are Not Your Trauma resource guide. It is available on the app or by visiting resourceguide.youarenotyourtrauma.com. Until next time, I want you to remember, you have the power to protect your peace. Bye.